Awesome. Hi, Donna. Ah, and we're live. Yay.
Hey. Even Martin is in the waiting room. Hello, everybody.
Hey, really?
Yeah, and we've got Ryan.
Hello.
Hello, Iris. Hey, Stefano. How are you? You got hooked to the Wednesday web gems, I think.
Welcome back, Stefano.
Thanks. Nice to see you again.
Yay.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Ryan. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Michael, what an interesting background you got there.
Thank you, Mint. Two heads.
It didn't look like two heads. It looked like a Harry Potter thing.
It's a thing.
So, Micah, how long did it take you to paint this?
It's never going to be finished.
Oh.
The holding, the sinking. I got it.
You know, it's an emergent process.
Beautiful.
It's the crucible.
Ooh.
Arne's looking very much like a lecturer today.
Yeah.
You do. You do.
This is,
You're doing very well, Arne.
Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you. Yeah, until I start. No, this looks kind of fine. And then I go like, oh shit. It's the first time I'm using sort of the app like this. So it's a really interesting experience, at least up to now. Interesting experience because it allows you to show the slides, behind you, which obviously makes you feel a little bit more like, we used to be like, with people in one room and then with a PowerPoint behind you, or like with a group, or maybe at a conference. So it's really interesting. It's different. It feels more comfortable than kind of sitting and being sort of behind your PowerPoint if you share your screen. So it's kind of interesting. I'm really curious to see what it does for me as a presenter, and what it does for also the audience experience, if you will. Because I don't know about you, but I'm stuck in a lot of meetings where they start sharing their screen and showing PowerPoint, and then I'll just see a little face in a box, and I don't know. I think there's something unsustainable about that. I think we can't continue to do that. I think we need to have human connection. This is not the best solution either, but it feels a little bit more comfortable. Anyway, so we'll see. And I can walk around, so that's good. There you go.
Wonderful.
Not only walk around, Arne, but also dancing a little bit.
And your feet.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Emil.
Like, I'm there.
Camera off today, Emil.
I'll be putting it on later when I'm at my working place.
When you feel safe, when you feel safe enough. And I turn on my camera.
I just finished the preparations for cooking. That's why. Pumpkin risotto with canette with a little piece of duck.
Ooh.
We want to see that, Emil.
Yes, please.
Talking about it doesn't
I
count.
want to see it in him. That's another webcast. I think we can start. kind of, right? Going to do the honors to say hello to everyone. Mimp, are you, or sorry, Yunyan, are you going to take the?
Okay, okay, I will do it because Cecile is the last one who just entered. So I'm welcoming everybody of you to be with us again for the 32nd time. That's not a little small number, isn't it? For those who are here for the first time, you have arrived at not a platform. We change it. It's a living lab. It's a living lab for hungry learners, designers, innovators, and change makers. Here you're going to do things never done before. So you are so, so welcome. And this time, Arne wants to take us to safe spaces. No, wrong, unsafe spaces. So please be welcome. Join us, sit tight. Arne, please take our hands.
Thank you very much. So yeah, thanks. Unsafe spaces, unsafe places. It's interesting because if I think most of the people in the call must have experienced, either being, in a call as one of the people in the audience, or with a meeting with your company, or you've experienced it maybe as someone who needed to kind of take the lead and share a slide and talk, et cetera, et cetera. And it's an interesting feeling because it's both, so the way I experience it is both a bit different, because you're like, especially in the beginning when that became the norm. So is it unsafe or safe? Sometimes I feel people feel more safe, more anonymous, because they are in this virtual space. So it's interesting how this space might not be the most unsafe space. I feel I feel tension and nervous because I'm going to go through a topic that I'm passionate about, but this is the first time I actually do it. And I have an exercise that I haven't tried out. That's why we do the jam, right? So it is this living lab, and I'm going to try out a sort of a tool. I don't know what to call it, but a process or tool or whatever. And I'm going to take you along, and I do want your kind of attention, and I really want you to participate in it. We're not going to do any breakouts. So in that sense, that's going to be very safe, because I think a lot of people, often when we do these jams, and we say, you're going to be in breakouts in 10 minutes, and people, you see the people leave like ding, 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 and there goes the audience, because a lot of people feel that it's too confrontational, specifically when it's like very personal topics. Now, safe space is obviously a very personal topic, because we feel safe at different times and different moments in our lives. Anyway, so I'm going to throw a few topics at you. I'm not going to kind of provide a lot of answers saying this is the definition of a psychological safe space, because I think once there's a definition, whatever, Google it if you want to. But we're going to explore it. We're going to try and unpack it a little bit, and I need your help. So please help me. Please help me. So I'm going to throw a few topics at you. First thing, I'm a big fan of this book called *Sapiens*. So I stole a few ideas from that book. The first thing that was for me really important that came is like in the first few chapters of the book. There's an example of how human beings, Homo sapiens, can imagine things that do not exist. That's really important to know. We can imagine things that don't exist. No other living being, as far as we can tell, can come up with stuff that doesn't really exist and then make it real, or make it real enough for us in our brain. So I think that's one thing keep that in mind. So that's a superpower, because that's something that we use to kind of develop our societies, and not just art and creativity, but everything. Our whole life is kind of changed because of we can imagine things that don't exist and organize accordingly and create stuff. Okay, just throwing things at you. This is another really interesting topic. So in the early 14th century, and if there's any historians out there, please don't kill me, but in the early 14th, 15th century, the world maps from a European perspective, make note of that, a European perspective, they had world maps, and it was all filled in. There was no empty space in the map. right? Because because they didn't know anything about the world, but if they kind of put stuff in the map that was unknown, they just put some sea monsters in there or something, but it's all filled in, right? And it's actually really interesting that the empty maps actually sparked a drive for innovation, because there was a moment in time. So here you see like a map from the 14th century, right? This is the world as Europeans thought it was, and it's all filled in. There's no space. This is the planet. There it is. And there's no space for exploration or anything to discover, because basically the people at that time said, we know everything that needs to be known, everything that's important, we kind of know. And because it's in a book or it's in the head of a king or someone really more important, we know everything there is to know that is important, right? So there's nothing to learn here, nothing to see. Then all of a sudden, people started thinking, well, maybe there is information out there that is also important, but we don't really know it, or the knowledge that we have might be wrong. That kind of was a totally new way of thinking. And empty maps started appearing. Empty maps, right? So there's like this is the coastline, probably with South America, and obviously there are very negative consequences. What happens next is where the Europeans say, let's go and conquer everything, but at the same time, let's go and discover everything. Let's go sail for like months and kill everyone on board, basically, because of scurvy and all that stuff. But we want to know what's out there. We're curious. We want to fill in the empty spaces. Now, again, I'm just throwing things at you. You're going to say, whoa, what's that? So why is that? Where's the safe space? Well, I think that's the point right here. Where's the safe space? For exploration and trying new things and going out there and taking risks. There's no safe space. You might die. We'll still do it. All right. So this sort of another thing which is connected to this, it's the scientific revolution that started with admitting, right, that we are ignorant, that there is knowledge out there that is important, but we don't know it. There's knowledge out there that might change our minds, that we might want to test what we know, right? And if you think about it, and for people who are in design thinking or iterative methodologies, that's what we do. We say, well, we don't know. We start with, we don't know. And when we discovered that, what is it, like 20 years ago or something, like, oh, there's something like iterative human-centric design approach, or like, I think we forgot, like that's not just the design approach, that's a scientific approach. That's basically saying there's knowledge out there that's important, we don't know it, and what we know might be wrong. It's very simple. Start with, I don't know. Okay. I'm just going to throw some stuff at you, okay? So don't worry, sit tight. I'm going to stop throwing things at you in a moment. I'm going to have you do stuff. The topic of shared space might seem somewhat disconnected. It's not. Shared space. So as an example, I like that term. I think some of you already heard me talk about this. This is a space at the exit of the train station in Amsterdam, and it's also where sort of so these are the ferries, like boats, not ferries, like two ferries, but like ferries that they come to the shore here. People exit it. And there's a cycle path right here, and there's people exiting the train station, and it's a total mess. There are no clear rules on purpose. So basically, you can see sort of the cycle lane ends here, right here, and here it literally ends. It go stop, no cycle lane. So you go with your bike, and if, for anyone who's been in Amsterdam, people on bicycles, they're crazy. So they come here like, and they hear like, oh, what's going on? So they look up. And social rules kind of take over. So hardly any accidents. I mean, I haven't heard of them. They were really nervous about this. But this is sort of shared space. It's like there are rules, social rules, but they're like just limited. There's a few, and there's not a lot of rules saying they have right of way, you have to stop, and then etc. So because that actually made it more confusing. Okay, so how many rules do you actually need to create a space, a shared space for people to actually, look at each other and work together and make this function, because it's a really complicated, complex system taking place right here. Okay, something else. I worked for a large German company. We did a big project there. They called their innovation departments their submarines, because if they knew what they were doing, they would say they're just burning money, because they are tinkering. They are just, they have no clue, because there's a lot of trial and error. Any lab, by the way, any company that does creates any product that needs a lab knows that process of trial and error, right? So it is actually really important what they're doing. And actually, if you think about it, and so for instance, this company, they were founded by people who were innovative and did stuff and created stuff and tried things and tinkered, and that's sort of their roots. And then there's this whole machine that were built around it, and they forgot the balance. I'm not saying one is bad and the other is good. I'm saying they forgot the balance between the two. So submarines. Now, we are as a creative sect, if you will. You might remember when you go into, maybe you have a space in your building where it says, this is the creative space or an innovation lab. Often we write rules on the wall. We say, do this, do that, don't do this, don't be that, don't be, those. I'm just saying, is that helpful really? I'm just thinking, be creative. I like this one. Be creative, right? Oh, okay, sorry. Right now, yes, only in this space, by the way. If you walk out of the door, don't be creative. But if you're in a creative space, I like this one. Oh, sorry, this is the other way. Success. This is up. It's up the stairs, not downstairs. It's up the stairs, and it's only, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. You might really want to rethink that. Is that really what we want? I like this one. I know this is a stock photo, but I still like it. Fuck average. Be legendary. Oh, okay. All right, now, should I be legendary now? It's like, this is the moment. Is that safe? Because I think we're trying to create a safe space for people to be creative. And I'm thinking, I don't feel very safe if you want me to be legendary, sorry. Or, it's kind of fun to do the impossible. I'm not really sure. I think that's why they call it the impossible. I'm just saying, sometimes it's nice to be in a submarine, if that's all thrown at you, right? I'm just throwing things at you at the moment. No, don't worry about it. All right, so, okay, this is where I go. And there's a storm coming, and sorry, no, that's. I like this weatherman. I have no clue about weather. Okay.
Can you tell us the weather, please?
Can you? Well, there's a blue inked kind of spot. Slowly.
This is you missed your career, Arne. That is you,
taking over the green bits. And I don't know what it does, or the green bits are taking over the blue. It's like this fight between sort of this east and the west, and I don't know. This is getting really dark here. So,
but are we safe, Arne?
I don't know. I have no opinion. That's too political. The weather, I mean. So, what do you do now? Think about this. What do you do now to create this safe space? Do you put rules into place? What do you do? What is your role with your friends, with your family, with your business, with your team? What do you do now to create that safe space? Now we're going to kind of try and go through a little bit of an exercise, and you need a pen and paper. You need pen and paper for this. Okay, so I want you to kind of get some pen and paper. I'm going to ask you some questions, and basically what I want you to do is just write down some words. It's very easy. You don't have to share it, so be truthful. That's the only thing I want to ask you, please, because otherwise it makes no sense. Be truthful. Now, it's the first time we're going to do it, so it's not perfect, and it could be way more sophisticated and more intelligent, I'm sure. But we want to kind of go through, because these are questions I think they're important and they're good to kind of think about. Okay, so first of all, this is actually an interesting point as well. What do you do when you're unsafe? But bear with me. So I'm going to throw some relationships at you that you probably have. Maybe some of them you do. You're like, I don't have friends. So maybe that's all right. Fine. Then you don't have to write any words down. But if you do have a friend that you trust, write down like 1 or 2, 3, 4, or 5 words that you feel like connect to a friend I trust. Why do you trust that friend? What's there? What do you feel? Just, it can be very personal. You don't have to share it. So just write it down. A friend I trust. I'll give you 30 seconds. Ten seconds left. Just write down a few words. We're going to go through a few of these relationships. All right, next question. Again, we're going to speed through this a little bit. Don't worry about it. So, by the way, friend could also be female, right? So I'm just a friend I don't trust. Now you might say that's not a friend, but you might have friends you say, well, I like them, I like this person, but I'm not going to give him or her my car keys. No way. So a friend, I don't know, or like when he's drunk, then no. So a friend I don't trust. Like I trust you. I don't know, really sure. So again, few words. What do you connect to that? Again, a couple of seconds. First thing that comes to mind. Don't think about it too much. Friend I don't trust. What do you connect to? What do you feel? All right. 10 seconds. Okay, next one. A colleague I like. A colleague I like. Again, maybe they're similar to the friend, I don't know, but write it down. Colleague I like. What are the words? Why do you like that colleague? What makes you like that colleague? What does that person do that you feel like I like that person? What does that person do? All right. Just going to time you. Ten seconds. All right, next one. Colleague I do not like. A colleague I don't like. What does that person do that you don't like that colleague? Again, 30 seconds. Go. Ten seconds. All right, we're going a bit fast, I know, but bear with me. A good boss. Again, what does a boss do that makes that boss a good boss? Maybe in your past you had someone you're like, that was a really good boss. Or maybe you have one now. Why is that boss good? But it's not about you, what you think when you are a good boss, but you felt from someone else. Like you saw someone, you had a boss, what made that person a good boss, manager, someone in charge. All right. Okay, 10 seconds. All right. So who can guess what comes next? What do you think? A bad boss, surprise. A bad boss. What makes a boss bad? What makes someone who's like, geez, her again, him again, why is he always like micromanaging me? Why? What does that person do that you feel that's not a good boss? Ten seconds. Okay. A stranger I trust. A stranger, someone I don't know, but I trust that person. So, or hardly know, I just met, but I feel that I can trust that person. Why? What are the things that you kind of write down? What are the things you connect to that? What does that person kind of radiate? Why do you trust that person that you actually don't really know? All right, so 30 seconds. Ten seconds. All right. A stranger I do not trust. You see the pattern? Stranger I do not trust. So you don't know that person. Why don't you trust that person? What's wrong? What do you feel? Why do you feel? Do you feel like you're maybe are you in danger? Is there something wrong, or does a person give you a strange feeling, or what, do they look you in the eye, or what is the thing that they do that you feel like I don't know, I can't trust that person. I don't think I can trust that person. Why not? Go ahead. We're almost done. We're almost done. No worries. There's not that many more left. All right, 10 seconds. All right. Next one, great parents. Great parents. Why? What do they do? What are the keywords that you connect to? Great parents. What they do they do that is outstanding, amazing? How do they create that wonderful family? What do they do? Few words. All right, 10 seconds. And you guessed it, bad parents. Bad parents. Why? Why do you feel that they are bad parents? What makes a parent, what make parents bad? Just the first thing that comes to mind. Just write down some words. Don't worry about it. You don't have to share it. It's all about your relationships that you have around you. And I kind of try to kind of have as many this kind of relationship that we have in life, we all have in life, and try to kind of sort of quickly, I want to say analyze them. It's a little bit too big of a word to say analyze, but a little bit. Analyze the relationships. All right. 10 seconds. Okay. A bad teacher. We're almost there. I think there's only one left after this one. You're guessing which one. Bad teacher. What makes a teacher a bad teacher? 10 seconds. All right. A great teacher. A great teacher. What makes someone a great teacher? Maybe experience a great teacher. What did that teacher do that you felt like this is a really awesome teacher? I really like this teacher. Why? All right, 10 seconds. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions that are slightly different, but it's more about reflecting on yourself, on your position and what you do. So try to write down, or try to kind of pick out some of the words that you've written down, some of the words that that you connected to this relationship, and just kind of say, what should I do to create a safe, creative space? It's a creative space. So I'm not saying psychological safe space. It's a creative space. And if you remember that, so I don't know, you don't have to agree with me, but I think that sometimes conflict is really helpful. Sometimes it needs to you need to have maybe some pressure, maybe some confrontation. That's also, it's not necessarily bad to have confrontation. So if you've been in service design thinking, and all these kind of workshops, for instance, some of the, you might be, really enjoying them, and often people are, and they're really awesome, wonderful, but they are also sometimes not really helpful, because do they really, focus on the problem at hand? Because often it's more about everybody's very happy and everybody should be joyful and it should be very easy. And so should it be? I'm just saying that. Don't know. So what do you do? So I'll give you another little minute to think about, to collect some of the words that you feel that you should do to create a safe, creative space. Okay, 10 seconds. And I like that saying, without friction, there's no shine. At least it's something we say in Dutch all the time. I'm not sure if that's actually an English saying, but in Dutch, it's without friction, there's no shine. All right. So a little bit more difficult task for you. This is basically a, you can call it a stakeholder map or a value network, or, whatever you want to call it. It's basically a bullseye. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to be disappear. This I like it. It's like what, just make a few circles and then think about. And again, you don't have to share. We're not going to ask you to share this, but who are the people around you? Who are the people around you that have influence on your safe space, creative safe space, psychological safe space? Who are those people? Personal, friends, family, or colleagues, work, team, whatever, anyone, anything that has an influence on your safe space. So try to kind of map that quickly, make some sketches, and see whether you can connect some of the words that you've written down to these people, why they either are influencing your space positively or negatively. All right, so try kind of I'm not going to spend a long time, but I'm going to give you a little bit more time reflect on this, because I think it is important, because basically this is your world, and the people in it are the people influencing how you feel and what your possibilities are, and if you feel either restricted or supported. And so just, just be brutally honest. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking you to do. Nothing more. Just be brutally honest with yourself, which is the most hardest thing to do. Right? So check that out. You're back here. I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and that for online is an amazing, massive amount of time. 3 minutes to work in silence.
Nick, can you explain again what to do? I have someone in the chat who doesn't know.
So this is a bullseye, and basically you put yourself in the middle, and you map the people around it, and the people more in the center are more strong connections or have more influence on you in whatever context you want to see yourself. So you can say it's all is like work and private. It's the same thing, or I'm just going to look at work, or I'm just going to look at private. Doesn't matter. You can mix it. You can say this half is private, this half is work related. These are the people. Again, you don't have to share it. You can throw it away later if you know. But I think it is really, really important. And I'll tell you why it's important to kind of do this, because it might explain a lot about why sometimes you feel not so happy where you are, or unsafe where you are. It also tells you a little bit later also about yourself, what your role is actually in that space. But it's also that if you want to change, there's this saying, I think it's actually from a research that obviously I haven't read, but I just heard, and I'm just stealing the one quote from it. But it says that you are sort of the average of the people that you surround yourself with. Now, I haven't done the research, but I know instinctively that is true. I know it's true. You are very much influenced by the people that you're around. So if you want to change something for yourself, you have to kind of first realize where are you, and what is how does that energy flow? And if I want to change it, I might want to surround myself with other people, right? Or you might want to change the energy, but again, it's about making that explicit. First of all, I mean, we're looking at other people now. So I made it easy because obviously we're gonna, looking at yourself, because empathy starts within yourself. But I want to kind of see whether we can make that really explicit. So it's a bullseye. The more important people are in the center, and the less relevant, or the less kind of strongly present people are more to the outside circles, right? So take a few minutes, just go and write some names. You don't have to draw the picture, and try to kind of connect the words that you've written down. From this was a really good teacher, or I have a really good boss. What are the things that boss do? This is a really nice friend. This is the friend I don't trust. Don't give him the car keys. Well, and again, it's the first time I'm doing this, so I'm really curious to see whether this sparks any insights or anything that might be useful, because it's an experiment. All right, so bear with me. Just one more minute. Then we're going to move on. Okay. So I'd like to kind of, and again, I'm not asking you to share anything that you don't want to share or any personal information, but I would like to kind of open the floor to the people in the audience and the participants, the people in the group, to share maybe some general kind of feeling about what we did. is it, I mean, we didn't take a lot of time. Actually, I sped through it more quickly than I thought. Again, it's the first time I do it. So like, oh, I'm in a hurry. But what is your feeling about this? Did it bring you an insight? Is it something that you could kind of, you can use, or is it, what did it do for you so far before we move on?
It's really interesting, actually, to map out these different dimensions. It made me also realize that so it's by mapping out kind of these different kind of networks, I suddenly realized I don't really have a challenger in my network. So that was actually a very big insight for me by just mapping this out and mapping these different.
So what would a challenger do?
Well, it was interesting because we were looking at, what is a great teacher, a great parent, or, what do they do? And there's this, like you said, there's this kind of these two elements of on the one hand, supportive, and that you feel very comfortable in their presence. At the same time, great teachers, what I remember of great teachers were the ones who kind of helped you either see new perspectives or so open up a kind of a world that you didn't see before, or actually push you over an edge, really push you to your own limits, and that you suddenly, because you just sometimes you cross a boundary, and suddenly you see this whole new landscape. And that's, I think it's a role for parents, but this is mostly a role for our teachers. That so they don't let you go. It's so they create this unsafe space. They hang on to you. But you need to sometimes a little push beyond your comfort.
Is that also is that also a good boss?
I think so. Yes, I think that should be a role of a boss, at least to. I mean, there you need these two things. You need to feel competent in what you do. So if you're constantly being challenged, then that won't be really a productive relationship. But at some point, it would be good to be helped to cross certain boundaries, to see new things. Okay. But it will require a lot of a very basic, very good relationship. Otherwise, that wouldn't work.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Maybe something else, or maybe build on what Martin was saying.
We got Kathy.
Yeah.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi. So one of the things that I noticed looking across the different kind of domains or relationships, at least for myself, is that there was very little difference in the plus or I say the good and the negative experience, in the sense that my friend, colleague, boss, stranger, parents and teacher, they were just almost like a continuous list of that reflected similarities and built on it. So for me, it spoke to the fact how very much those people that I have, I'd say those closer relationships with, or because they are more positive influence, that they're very value-based for me. And so when I think about then looking at building, what does it mean to create a safe space for others, or create a safe space? When I look at it, what I wrote, it's also very value-based. And so I see how that kind of echoes through for myself.
Yeah, cool. Very, very good. Thank you. Anyone else has to maybe build on this, or something else that you noticed, or another thought that you had?
I'd be happy to add and build on what she was just saying, Kathy. I found value-based too, that a lot of the words just had a string to them, almost as though I could walk in and say, here's where I thrive, here's where I struggle. And if I was looking at a client, a new boss, a new colleague, it's almost as though there's a bit of a path, and that's even a heads up to me not to get stuck on that path, because I think that there's a lot of learning and growth that can still happen. But nevertheless, there is a bit of road work. I'm 60. There's a point where I go, yeah, this has really consistently worked, and this consistently hasn't. And I think there's a kind of a calm about that. I know it works for me, and I would hope that I could help other people with that too.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Anyone else?
Arne, one thing that I did when I couldn't think of anyone in particular, I sort of projected myself as that person, and then thought, what are the things that I would be judged as a bad parent or a bad boss by? If I acted in a certain way, how would I be judged as a bad boss? So it wasn't quite what you asked, but it was using the prompt in a way to kind of imagine myself as in that role, and then kind of evaluating it from that perspective.
Yeah, very, very good point. Well, I think that, like I said earlier, is that, reflecting on why you feel other people are doing a good or a bad job is also reflects on you in one way. I mean, you could argue that, there might be really bad teachers out there. But it also says something about you, that you experienced that as a bad teacher. What does it tell you about yourself? There's a little bit more difficult. It's easier to kind of project it on other people and saying, well, I didn't really like what they did. But actually looking inside of yourself and reflecting on yourself, and then looking at what that does to that relationship or how you perceive other people, it's really complicated. I think it's one of the most difficult things we do as human beings. And it takes some courage and vulnerability to say, well, so what was my part there? So I kind of like your take on that, like what because it kind of immediately, it looks inside of yourself saying, do I do these things? Can I be? Because, I'm a parent, and I'm not always a good parent. I sometimes for instance, my son really likes to play with Lego, and he's 8 years old. And I find it very difficult, which it might be a surprise, but I find it very difficult to sit down for hours and play with Lego, until I discovered that whatever I do with the Lego, so I like building stuff. I can't play like, the storytelling anymore. Like, this is about you, I'm going to kill you and do your little sword. But I can build stuff, and that's fine. So I just go, actually, it's fine. He just likes me to be there and do stuff and build there. And so I can play my own game, and that is perfectly fine with him. He loves that because I built stuff for him. He's like, hey, you can use that for your sport or something. Here's a plane I built, right? So, but I felt like, you have to kind of look inside of yourself, like, why do I feel bad about this? And, am I now a bad parent because I forgot how to do that game, or I don't know. So, all right. Anyone else wants to throw something out there you want to share about what you feel, that maybe also what's written here, what should we do to create a safe space? What should we actually put in place? What makes people feel safe? Anyone who wants to share some thoughts around that? What should you what should you do? Suppose you are part of a team, or your business. What do you do, or should you do?
I can. Oh, you go.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that running this exercise, like with a team, it's...
Your volume is very low. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? No? Can you hear me?
No, wait, I'll just... Yeah, go ahead. I can't hear you.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'll try. I think that running this exercise as a team is like the best thing we could do is to start like to create this creative space, creative and safe space, like inviting people to reflect on their own, on their relationship, and in how this can be projected in the team is like a beautiful thing that people can do to spark this creative thing within the team. So it's great.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wants to share, or maybe there's something in the chat that I don't see because I can't see the chat. So maybe there's
I'll
something.
chime in, Arne.
Yep.
I was thinking a lot about inclusivity. Like as I went back through my words, the thing that really struck me from the people who were the good people were that they saw you for who you are. And it just in hearing the last couple of people speak and seeing what's in the chat, it made me wonder in doing these types of workshops if the most important thing is to have the group create their own rules at the beginning so that it is truly inclusive. Because I think it was Kathy who posed a question in the chat that it's almost impossible not to impose your own values if you're the one who creates the rules on some level. So, what if the rule is that you co-create at the beginning and you create a set of 10 rules that everybody agrees upon?
Yeah, exactly. But do you need those rules, do you think?
I think you need to understand who's in the room and what they need.
Yeah.
Right. So whether or not it's a rule, it's about that inclusivity, right?
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I see that
And I was sharing. Oh,
hand.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just saw that Kathy raised her hand. I want to give her space in case you want to talk.
Well, thanks. I just wanted to jump in on what Nina was saying and also what I'm hearing, or not hearing, reading through the chat. I think there needs to be a new word created. And someone once told me that if we're true designers, then we know that happens when we make up a new word. I don't know what that word is, but it's something that is akin to rules, but it's not the word rules because that has so much baggage with it. Guidelines isn't tight enough for it. But when it comes to inclusivity, equity, diversity, accessibility, there needs to be some form of these like rules of engagement that really create the tone and don't necessarily put the burden on the users to have to figure out how to adapt or navigate within. That in itself allows there to be kind of a space for freedom, freedom to fail, freedom to succeed without necessarily imposing what that might look like.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Or maybe some reflection on what we just did, or maybe build on what Kathy was saying.
Yeah, I would like to add something. And thank you, Katie, explaining what you just told. Suddenly in my mind popped up the concept of time for creating a space and holding it. Suddenly I felt, time should go much slower so I can see you. I could, for instance, have the feeling that you are a bad teacher or a bad boss, but I very much would like to have the time to go slower so I can see better, and also for a good boss, perhaps for enjoyment. But the time, is it a feeling thing or is it a clock thing? It's definitely not a clock thing. So somehow could we help each other to let the feeling to flow slower? Like we now perhaps are doing.
Yeah, and is there a difference between? I mean, I know that's what you're also saying, but is there a difference in virtual and the non-virtual, so the real life? This is real life too, by the way, but the live meetings and being together, and like now, do you feel that time? Does it? Is that different?
To me, for me personally, in the feeling there is no difference. In the approach, in the journey going to that feeling, there might be a little bit. And I tend to think we all are learning. So suddenly it is part of your skill, but the feeling doesn't change.
Yeah.
The feeling doesn't.
Yeah. So I think this is because of this online environment that we are in, and we've been in that, but it's now like very dominant. It's like this is the thing that we do. We work from home. We work remote. I've been working remote with people for many years, but there's something changed because now this is the norm. And we don't know if when it's going to go away, or when we go back to not going, having the virtual as dominant. Maybe this will stay. But I like the concept of shared space, because I like the word shared. I like this idea because there's sort of something equal to it. We share the space. It doesn't mean that we all have the same amount of kind of space, or we are the same in that space, but we share it. We can be very different in that space. But we share it, and sharing means that we have to give something as well, and we need other people to take that from us. So you can give, but if there's no takers. So there's a relationship thing there about what is a shared space. And if you think about it, we are always in a shared space. We're always part of a system with people around us, either in our workspace or private space, or in a society, in our towns, in our countries on the planet. It's all a shared space, and we not just share it sometimes with humans, we share it with other living beings as well, right? So I like that kind of the idea of what shared space, and I think that, to me at least, it triggered something positive, and because it's also about you kind of pose rules that are just your rules or your reality or your truth in a shared space, because then it becomes your space. And I don't know if your space is still life, but I think that kind of, or was it MySpace? I don't know. Oh, no, it was MySpace. That's the Facebook before Facebook. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. Who wants, did you want to say something? I thought someone had said something. Who would like to share a thought or some famous last words before we kind of round up?
Yeah, I can go, Arne. Yeah.
Oh no!
No, not me. Goodness sake, again.
So no, man.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago we were creating some safe spaces at the office, the company I was working for, and we basically tried to have a lot of white canvas on the walls to allow people to write, and we also created these tables where people could write, but we tried to make it kind of like a little religious space, so where people would say, yep, this is the moment, the place where you can just work in different set of rules, let's say. We didn't try to make it really creative, but simply if you want to write on walls or on tables, that's okay. Just express yourself in a bigger, more human size. And it worked. It really worked well. And then different departments copied it. We started putting it in corridors, in different workspaces, along any empty wall we could find. And by doing that, suddenly, the work that was being done by people, they started to have meetings all over the place. Just the concept of the meeting room was just broken apart, and people were just having meetings everywhere. Where they could just express themselves, because it was so useful to use those white canvas to define these more complex topics they were working on, because it was a large IT consultancy firm. And so it was quite a success. It was quite useful, but fun enough, we really tried to work on it like almost a religion. And so we would have definitions of empathy on the walls and things like that, but not really trying to incentivize people to, let's say, you have to be creative right now, right here. It was just like more kind of food for thought, just challenging something.
Cool.
But it became, those became the favorite spots on the company. So that was interesting.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, so I think that what we are experiencing now with this pandemic is that a company like yours, it changes dramatically when everybody all of a sudden is working from home, right? So how do you translate that to online? How do you translate that to spaces, and because I think one of the key topics I think we're going to hear a lot about is self-leadership, is kind of, people need to have, feeling of ownership and responsibility. And there's a lot of things happening now with companies saying, well, we can't micromanage you anymore. So, well, we're just going to focus on the outcome of what your task, and how you get there, it's up to you. You're a grown up. It's like, oh yeah, we're adults. Oh God, but we're not used to working that way. So, any thoughts around how you would kind of what would you do now? I know you're not working there anymore, but how would you kind of do that now, where people are not in the office and then in the building?
Arne, this is Emil calling here. I think for concerning the how you do your work, that's something you should be able to decide on yourself. And but I think the biggest problem now is that if you have a problem with the how do I get there? How can I get my result? And then it's a big threshold for reaching out and asking somebody to help, because you're in a different space, in a different time. And I think that is maybe a problem. The people who want help can't reach out in the way they used to at the office. So they have to take initiative and
yes,
and count on the empathy of their colleagues.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. So we are at the end of this Wednesday Web Jam, and I know Yunyan would like to say something about next. I want to thank you very much for going through this experiment. After this, we're going to go into our backstage, so we can talk a little bit more about did that app, that slide thing, what I'm using here, is that actually helpful? So as a facilitator, I so we can talk about that a little bit. But Yunyan, you want to say something about next week?
Yeah, next week we are going to have you all as special guests, because we so much want to know what do you want in our little living lab sandbox. We do like to know the topics you want to hear about or even share with us, guests you wanted to invite to come along all the time, speakers, methods that are existing already, but perhaps even better, making new methods together with us. So we are very, very curious to you, and hope you will be with us next week. Although I'm announcing this, your marvelous facilitator will be Mark and Ezekiel.
Oh, really? Yeah, we're so this is we try to check in with everybody from time to time. Our community, as you guys know, have been here before, to see how things are going. We thought we have tons of ideas ourselves about cool topics that we could cover, but we really want to, this is such a cool community that we have, and we have such amazing conversations like we had today about things that, we're all familiar with to some degree or another, but we need a guide to take us through those discussions. And we're really curious to kind of use ideation techniques a little bit next week to crowdsource some areas that we'd like to dive into, and looking forward to that. So hopefully you'll all show up and bring a friend, and we'll bubble up some new things to put in our sandbox for the coming months.
A quick one for people to register right away. I have the link in the chat box, so please have a look.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Go, 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 go. All right. Then Where is my slide? If you want to join us on the social media, that makes it very, very easy to share Wednesday Web Jam with your friends, colleagues, bad bosses, good bosses, colleagues, and family. So bye-bye for now, if you have to go, and otherwise, please do stay with us in the backstage.
For the weather report.
You do.
Welcome to the backstage, everyone. Just as a heads up, I'm going to stop streaming on YouTube. So if